We got a new sponsor too, by the way.
All right, gentlemen, we are live. Everybody, it's great to have you guys join us again on this Tuesday. It's a chilly Tuesday. I don't know where you all are calling in from, but the majority of us are on the East Coast, and it's in the 30s. I think it's supposed to snow tomorrow, gentlemen. I think I've seen a few things. And Eric, where you are, I think you probably gonna get the brunt of it. I think you're gonna get
four or 5 inches tonight, but it's going to be mostly an ice storm here tonight, bro.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope you got your fridge stocked, bro. You know.
Just went to the fridge. Went to the fridge.
But hey, y'all, you are tuning into part 5. We have had a phenomenal series, this How to Love a Man series. And part 5 is to teach him how to love you. This is going to be a very, very interesting conversation because I think that many women for a long time have thought that men were born with this innate attribute, characteristic, quality, if you will, on how to love a woman. Let alone how to love themselves, and let Eric talk about it tonight. He can really dive deeper into that. That's his area. But I don't think that men necessarily were taught how to love. I think that we have learned how to love, and many times it's come through casualties of war. It's come through failed relationships, failed marriages, the death of somebody in our family that we didn't even know we had strong emotions for until they left the planet. And so I think for many of us, we've never really grappled with the word love and how that looks for somebody else in our life. What are the symptoms of love? What are the activities of love? What does love feel like? What does it sound like? I don't think we as men has really grappled with that yet. And so this is not one of those in the barbershop conversations, because I don't know about you, Fred, but I'd never been in a barbershop where we talked about love. You know, we've always glossed over that conversation. And Fred, you ain't been in a barbershop for some years, so I mean, maybe.
You know I'm trying to quit cussing. Don't provoke me.
My fault. Brother, you know I love you, bro. We haven't.
I want to say. I want to.
I just keep
right now. I love people. I try to love people, and I try to turn over just a new leaf, a new, more loving Fred every day. But I get provoked. I get provoked daily.
My fault, bro. I love you, man. Yeah, but we honestly do not have this conversation very often. And even growing up, I can't remember having a conversation with my father about love and relationships. What we did talk about many times was, if you're sexually active, Jason, are you wearing a condom? We talked about that, but there was no conversation within that conversation about love. It wasn't, do you love this woman that you're sexually intimate with? It was, are you wearing a condom? And so I think for many of us as men, we have not been told how to love. And so I think it's incumbent upon women to maybe teach us that soft skill. But also I think it's incumbent upon men, like in this group here. We lean on each other so much. I mean, we look forward to these Tuesday conversations. The gentleman will tell you, we look forward to these conversations because it's an opportunity for us to talk about things that maybe we didn't hear about growing up. So while we are sharing some things with you for the first time, maybe some of you are hearing, for many of us, we're hearing it for the first time as well. So it's just a great opportunity to talk about some hard-hitting conversations related to how to love a man. So part 5, Eric is going to open us up. Super excited about the activity he's about to take the 4 of us through. Corey, it's great to see you, brother. Hey, man, Corey, you know, it's official. If you haven't seen his social media pages, y'all need to check it out. He's a married man. There is a Mrs. Hughes. We are super excited. Congratulations to the 2 of you. The pictures were beautiful and amazing, bro.
It's true.
Congratulations, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Official like a referee's whistle.
Corey has been made an honest man.
Let's not go that far.
You're probably right.
Excellent.
Well, yo, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, walk us through the activity, man. And then after that, we're going to get right into the discussion on just our own experiences with love and how important it is for us to really kind of be taught how to do that soft skill.
So, with Corey and Brian, I want to say what's up to you, Corey. So when Jason asked me to do his icebreaker, I was trying to figure out, like, I've ran a lot of support groups and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what direction to go with this. And I think that one of the things that if I could set the stage for this, is I think that we could talk about, like we talked about pride before, and I think other words that have come up in the conversations, but we really haven't dived into the definition of what they mean or the connotation behind them, is like compassion and interdependence and things like that. But I think that what I'm asking for tonight is if we could explore the meaning behind experiences we've had, right? The theme of what someone has brought to the table, the wisdom that you gained from this person. And I'm asking this from you guys. Let's be willing, if you don't mind, to take it to that vulnerable place. Like, what was the piece of jewel that you got out of this experience for somebody with this question I'm going to ask you? So I'm going to ask you, you can pick a number, right? So when you pick this number, the number will be connected with either God, my mother, my father, or my first heartbreak, right? The question is going to be, what did I get out of this? What did I actually learn from the experience with them? What did they teach me? What did they teach me? And what jewel of wisdom did I get out of that? And maybe what theme am I repeating that I know is incomplete business? Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I'm also going to give you a 1 to 20 question. 1 to 20 number you can give me, and it will be either male or female person. Just to make it a little harder for you, right? So, Reggie, I said to you about you being a newly married guy, a year in the game, and at some place you will realize there really is no game, like kind of the Matrix, there's no spoon. Let's start with you, if you don't mind.
Cool.
So, on a number of 1 to 4, give me a number.
Just pick a random number?
Pick a random number.
Yeah. Okay. 1.
Okay. And then pick a number between 1 and 20.
10.
All right. So this will be male. So if you don't mind, could you tell me what influence did your father have on you in regards to love and relationships? What jewel did you get out of it? What did you see demonstrated? What jewel did you get out of it? And what is that area of that erroneous zone, that error, that place of error that you catch yourself still doing in your theme? Does that make sense to you? What are you trying to, what thing are you trying to feel also? So what examples, the theme that you got out of it, and what is something you're repeating that you're trying to change?
That's a dope question, bro. I think for me, my experience and learning from my father is somewhat limited because I was adopted when I was probably like 3 or 4, but both of my adopted parents passed away by the time that I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
So,
so you can still give it to me. Give it to me about the father that was absent.
Yeah. Well, what I'll get to is what I mainly learned from my father to answer the question was not necessarily a conversation, but more so observation. So just going from a household where I had never met my actual blood father, had an in and out relationship with my blood mother, to now being in a household with a married couple and just being in that environment, being in that culture, it gave me a viewpoint of what I thought was a healthy marriage, was a healthy relationship, right? But that's what led to my aspiration of always wanting to be married, of always wanting to create a family, atmosphere, and desiring that because I saw that once I got adopted. Now, there was never any, sit down conversation of like, hey, this is how you treat women. This is how you know what I mean? My father was a very straightforward guy. I never really saw him be maybe very affectionate with my mom, but I knew that he loved her because, he was just very consistent. He put up with a lot of, things that she did and amused her. But like I said, it wasn't a lot of sit down conversations because I was so young. You know what I'm saying? But it gave me just that image. I feel like image is so powerful.
Yeah,
If you could just show someone that something is possible, whether it be marriage, whether it be, you know, they want to pursue a profession, if they want to build a business, if they could just see it with people that they relate to, people that they know, I feel like that's like 80% of the game.
But Reggie, what you said there, you said something that leads into that other question about this. What is that area that you catch yourself filling the cup of? You said about communication, not something you saw, but what you saw was very much in the example set. But what you did not see was communication. And as we've talked about in these last 4 sessions, or 3 that I was involved in, is that communication is the paramount piece of the effectiveness in relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, how has that affected the theme for you? And what is the area that you know, as a guy who's a year in, that you know you're still trying to figure out?
Filling the cup, like maybe trying to compensate, or just
proper, yes, exact word, bro. If any.
Yeah, you got me thinking on that, because I never saw them argue. So maybe that's something that was a false assumption that, you know, if you have a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage, whatever, I mean, marriage is a relationship, right? That you don't argue. And I definitely carried that false image, you know, late into my, you know, attempts at relationships, because I thought, you know, if you argue, that's a sign of problems. Like, you know, healthy couples don't argue, but realizing once we got into our engagement and really into our marriage that it's okay to argue. You really want arguments because you don't want to be with someone that views the world 100% like you do, because then how can you learn?
Right.
There's different perspectives, right? So you get to learn from different perspectives. So the problem isn't the argument, but it's the time away from each other due to the argument. So if you can shorten the time that it takes to recover, the better. So if you can go from like being mad at each other for a week to maybe a couple of days, and from a couple of days to a couple hours to a couple hours to an hour, then you're winning. So for me,
Reg, how did you, if you've never seen it happen, how did you get willing enough to be vulnerable to say, this is a process? Because you've never seen the process. How the hell did you make a decision to say, I get this? This is a process. If you ain't never seen it, you might think this shit is irrational.
Yeah.
It's unhealthy. How did you get to that place?
I think that's the athlete in me. That's the student in me, and always wanting to learn how to, I almost treat everything like a performance, my business, you know, my health, but also my marriage, my relationship. So it's like, how can we improve, or how can I improve my performance? Because that's what I'm in control of. So how can I improve this time that we have away from each other of being mad? Okay, I need to be a leader and have the conversation, whether I need to apologize, whether I was right or I was wrong, regardless, I can piece it up. And I've always heard something that always stuck with me is, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And if we're on the same team, we need to be happy. You know, I want to be happy. So how can I shorten again that time of us being upset at each other so we can get back to being on the same team?
So you're saying instead of one of the things you learned on this was, instead of winning, how can we choose to be happy? How can I facilitate that?
Yeah.
Dope, bro.
Yeah.
Dope. Thank you, bro. Fred, if you don't mind, you might go next. Hey, what's up?
Awesome questions, bro.
I think the Batman just checked in.
Man, Batman in the building. Everybody all right?
Fresh.
Yes, sir.
You know,
All I can see is a gray beard and herringbone.
yeah, right.
What? Man, this cold. Look at this thing. Yo, it's cold right there, man.
I believe it. You match it with the beard. That's cool.
And you in the Batmobile, Lamar.
You took a page out of Corey's book of the dramatic lighting. Corey, you sent him the email before you sent me the email. Because I almost called you ass.
Oh,
I'm not gonna do it.
please, come on. I mean, I just got on, Fred. Come on, dog.
You look good.
I just entered the room. I was trying to jump in and just say something, you know, real simple. You know, like
Yeah, right.
God for, you know, the nuptials of our good brother. You know, I mean, he done went on ahead and jumped out there and found his rib. You know, that one that's gonna help you. I'm so excited about you. I'm so excited about what God is doing for you in your life, man. That's amazing.
It
I
is.
appreciate it, man.
Ain't nothing like finding the one that's for you.
Absolutely.
That's right, brother. That's right.
We spend entirely too much time with the wrong one.
Ooh.
Hold up, hey Fred.
That might be a call in itself.
Hold on, Fred. I'm not gonna call on you next. Let me get Dr. Staples, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
Lord, what are we talking about? Come on, y'all better give me
Fred,
more.
You gotta re-explain that. Yeah, you gotta explain.
so
hey,
what
hey,
we doing?
LeVar, I'm gonna tell you,
Doing,
Eric got us in a therapy session. So
no, this is Jason. Hey, blame this shit on Jason, man. Blame this on Jason.
I'm gonna go get me something to drink. I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Do what you do, Corey. But so Lamar, what we're doing is we're identifying. We're talking about what the influences someone had on us. The influence they had on us from an example position and from the theme that I recognize. So maybe I recognize compassion. Maybe I recognize the desire to lead, or the desire to, or maybe even not even being there. The biggest challenge, I think, and Reggie brought this to the table in the very beginning, was Reggie said something about, you know, I was talking to Reggie about the fact that him being in a marriage for 1 year and the willingness to be vulnerable with us and talk about what he is gaining from the conversation with men who've been in the game for a minute, I believe it's inspiring and it's interesting. Like, I want to listen to him. Like, it make no disrespect when I say it, I'm trying to think of a better word for this, but my son is wrestling, and when he discovers how to do his high cross throw, like, I'm like, damn, that's beautiful. Like, I dig that. So listen to Reggie identify what it is that in important in a marriage. It rekindles my desire to go, damn, I forgot that about, I didn't forget that about my woman, but I need to make sure I bring that back to the table. You know what I mean? And we're also talking about in this question, Lamar, we're going to also ask, what is that one thing that maybe you're still trying to fill your cup about? Maybe I saw somebody who showed love and compassion, but they did not know how to control themselves. Maybe they were a little bit more of a little boy or a little girl, and I caught myself trying to fix, and maybe I'm still fixing. So it's just really about being vulnerable and exploring those things. So Lamar, with you being first, you pick a number from 1 to 4.
3.
Okay. That's funny that you picked that one. That's cool. And now from 1 to 20.
12.
You just hit across. Okay. So Lamar, I don't know how I'm gonna do this one because I chose something that I don't know if it has a gender on it. So your understanding of what God is and how that influence of God has affected your relationships in regards to intimacy, the area of compensation, and the theme that maybe you've identified. But I'm not talking about the Lamar of right now, because the Lamar from right now is fresh to death and got her shit together. I'm talking about the Lamar in the journey. The Lamar in the journey. To make it, I think, to make it more not palatable, but it's kind of like when we talk about pride and we get to unpack what pride was. When we talk about intimacy, what God makes it clear. You know what I'm saying? So go for it, Lamar. And that 1 to 20, I'm talking about from a feminine energy. Because I'm going male, female.
You definitely need to
God, dad, mom, and first heartbreak. I know. Blame this on Jason, bro. Blame it on Jason.
Hey, man. Hey, tell us your thesis statement.
Call me right in the middle of the call. This is crazy. But listen, guys, if I could say anything concerning anything that Eric just dropped, because he just dropped a whole lot, and one quick statement with some numbers. I don't know where he getting these numbers from and what pages he pulling stuff off of. But I like where he going. I like where he going. So if I could take just a moment and try to deal with the Lamar of old and how the influences of my past have groomed me to be who I am now, and if I even attempt to dive into my spiritual relationship with God, that's a whole nother. I mean, we can do a whole nother show.
Lamar, would you mind if I help you paraphrase? And I
can't hear you, Doug. I don't know. I lost volume or something. I can't hear you. That's me. That's me. That ain't you.
Okay. Well, Lamar,
Let me
would
see
you
if I
mind
can
if
get
I
you back.
I will?
Let me get you
What I'll
back.
do is, if you don't mind, if you help me, if you allow me to facilitate a little bit with you, that way I'll help you paraphrase a couple things and go into that deeper end of it, because I think it's all interesting.
I couldn't hear nothing you said, but I'm gonna just keep talking because you threw the mic at me. So I'm gonna just keep talking until I figure out. Hopefully, I can't hear nothing y'all saying, but hopefully I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna come back in. But I'm gonna drop this real quick. The Lamar of old, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be the Lamar of now. If it wasn't with my relationship with God and all the things that I had dealt with, each relationship that I had, even dealing with the areas of my life. I said this on national television one time. Bishop Jakes was doing a panel and a book, and I sat there literally right beside my father. He asked me a question. He said, "Did you get what you needed when you were growing up?" The hardest answer, but what was the honest answer, was that with my dad sitting right beside me, I said, no, I didn't get what I needed as I was growing up. I didn't get the molding. I didn't get that real man look into a real marriage to see what it really meant. I didn't get those things when I was growing up, because my dad was never there. He was too busy working, so I never saw it. I lived in a house with his wife, which was my stepmother. I lived in that house. Yes, I lived there. I saw how he provided, but I didn't see their relationship. And because I didn't see their relationship, left me in a place where I was broken, because I didn't have a role model to model my relationship after. I know how to provide. I know how to bring a check in, but I never knew what it meant to be a husband. I never knew what it meant to be a father that was there. So what I ended up doing was I overcompensated in every area because I never wanted to be what I saw. Even though he's a great man, a wonderful man, great father, all of that, great provider, he never gave me the keys that I needed to make myself better. All I saw was him not being there. So in that, I mean, even with just that one relationship between me and my father, I mean, that right there left so many holes and left so many gaps, which put me in a place where I then, in the beginning of my marriage, was trying to fill gaps. I mean, I know ain't nobody gonna really be real on here tonight, but I'm gonna be real. I don't know, Corey might say
no.
It depends on how many cups.
Lamar, can you hear me?
But I'll just drop this out there. I spent entirely too much time and wasted too much time on relationships outside of my house because I was trying to fill gaps and fill holes. That if I was just focused on what I had, I could have done something different. My outcome might have been something different, but that's all a part of growing up. That was all a part of my level of growing up. I'm the one who's willing to admit, yeah, I made mistakes. Yes, I've done some things. Yes, I tried to fill the void in areas that if I would have focused properly, my void was already filled.
Lamar, can you hear me?
However, was I in a place of just being greedy? I think I was just being greedy. So that right there was a learning tool and a learning curve for me. And then it wasn't, nobody could pull me out of that but God. God was the one, and my relationship with God was able to pull me up out of that to where I'm not trying to fill the void any longer. I'm not trying to fill the void because anything that I believe that might be lacking, anything that I may believe that is missing is now in a place where I feel that with God. I don't feel that with anybody else.
Thank you, Lamar.
Did that make any sense?
It made perfect.
Thank you for saying that, bro.
It made
I
perfect.
don't know if you can hear us, but that made perfect sense.
I can hear y'all a little bit, but I'm gonna jump out and jump back in.
Okay.
Yeah, because you muffled.
I'm all in the car. I'm coming, Corey. I'm coming back, Corey, because I know you're gonna say something. Yeah, you're gonna grab a Bible scripture or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm getting out.
I may just quote Luke Skywalker tonight. I don't know.
From Two Live Crew.
Hey, Eric.
Yes, sir.
I think that what Lamar said, man, was a powerful segue. I think into let's go right into the conversation. Lamar said so many things about what he wasn't taught.
Yes.
He wasn't taught from his father, and I think that was such a vulnerable moment, man. I'm glad you started with Reggie. Reggie talked about his dad. Lamar talked about God, but then invariably talked about his father as well. And I think that all of us on this call can probably have a conversation about that. I think that's our segue.
It is.
I'll pick up from where Lamar left off. Like similar to Lamar, I didn't have my father teach me about relationships, and then my observation, similar to Reggie, I just kind of paid attention. I didn't ask questions. I just watched, and I saw so many things that I didn't want to emulate in a future relationship. And it wasn't that he was a bad man. My father was a phenomenal man. But those who are listening have to understand that when you understand the ancestry and the pedigree of your folks, that seemingly is why their behavior is the way that it is. My father's from Barbados. He's Bajan. And so he's a Caribbean brother. And so Caribbean men, you know, they in the fields, they work with their hands, they're used to providing, they're gone, you know, months out of the year. You know, they're always traveling, they're always making moves, and several jobs, always hustling. And so that's what I saw growing up. And so there was not a earnest commitment to being home, because there was always an earnest commitment to being in the streets to provide for your family. And so for me in relationships, it was, as long as I can provide you with a few gifts, you should be happy. As long as I can take you to a few nice places, you should be happy. Right? As long as I remember your birthday, you should be happy, because that's what I saw growing up. It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized that there's some things that women want more than just gifts. There's some things that women want more than just remembering their birthday. Things like quality time, you know, putting my phone away, intentionally spending time with you, listening to you, asking you about, you know, parts of your day that frustrated you, parts of your day that excited you. Like, I didn't learn that at home. And as you mentioned earlier, Eric, it was a process in the trial. And you asked, where did we learn that from?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, man, trial and error, man, messing up so many times.
But how are you willing to be wrong though, Jay? That's the question. Like, how do you get to a place where you like, you know what, I messed that up, and choose a chick. Excuse me, I don't want to say everything I'm sexist. Choose a partner who goes, yeah, baby, you did. Let's fix this so we can keep it moving. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a process in that.
Yeah. But you know what, Eric, for me, bro, and everybody else I know on our crew is different, but, you know, I dated a lot of older women when I was younger, bro. You know what I'm saying? When I got to the U as a freshman, man, you're talking about seniors, grad students. And then when I got out of college, you know, women 10, 15 years my senior. And so when you talk about where was it that I learned these things, it was older women who were teaching me these things.
I know they were.
And they were teaching me these things, Corey. They were teaching me these things in love. It wasn't, you should have known this. Why are you coming into this friendship or this relationship and being deficient? You should know these things. They took the opposite approach, which was, sweetheart, baby, let me teach you a little something. And because I was a sponge, bro, because I hadn't received that growing up, I was open and willing to learn. You know what I'm saying? So my best teachers were women who were 10, 15 years older than me. So had I not dated women much older than me, most of the lessons I've learned about relationships and love, I would not have learned.
Fred, how about you, bro? What are you taking out of all this, man? We talking about who's influenced us. Now,
hey, man, I'm sorry, man. I just noticed this guy's name.
I felt it. Somebody gonna say something like 15 years older.
You got a new sponsor.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna introduce you to our new sponsor, the Mo Better brand duct tape. Because the Mo Better makes it Mo Better.
Makes it Mo Better. But no, Fred, when you think about everything Lamar said and what Jason just said, man, where do you find the courage to find that change, though?
What a hot topic. I'll try to speak on what everybody has said, because I've been very interested in the liberty that you took once Jason invited you to, to bring this topic forward. Just a little bit, I made a notation about a comment that Reggie made about arguing, and he referenced the time that we spend apart, the how detrimental it is for us to be apart simply as a result of arguing. I remember saying to my mom one time, and you all know in the Huxtable household, my mom had a great influence on me when it came to, like, my older woman, Jason, was my mom in the sense that she didn't have the perfect emotional relationship with my father. So she really gave it up and told me what was missing and how to be a better husband and father. And I'm grateful for that. But Reggie, my mom once said to me, she asked me after I was married, do you and Vicky ever argue? And we hadn't really had any arguments that were meaningful enough that we spent any time apart, or there was any hard feelings or grudges held. And I said, no, not really. And she said, that's maybe a little bit worrisome, because just because you're in love, it doesn't mean that you don't have anything to argue about. Just because you don't argue doesn't mean you don't have something to argue about. And I say that not to say that you should be having knockdown, drag out fights, arguing and belittling, demeaning each other. I say that we shouldn't be spending any time apart after we argue, because there's a way, I keep saying, there's a way to say and do everything. If you want a positive outcome, then you'll argue for a positive outcome. You'll say and do things in the midst of an argument to affect an agreement, right? Or at least to simply get your point across in a way that's not belittling, that's not demeaning to your spouse, in a way that you don't walk away doing the Ali shuffle like you won. Because the whole point of trying to get your point across is that your spouse understands you, has a better understanding of what you meant, what you said, what you mean to do, or whatever the disparity in the disagreement is about. You don't want to belittle or demean somebody, call them names. Lamar went on to talk about, so I say all that to say that we shouldn't be spending time apart after arguing. Guys argue in court all day. That doesn't mean they scream and holler at each other. It means they express their points of view in a way to try to get an understanding. That's what we should be doing as couples. Lamar talked about his father asking him, did you get everything that you need? Did you get what you needed? And I would have told my father the same thing you told your father, which would have been yes, but it left scars, right? Yes, I did, but I had baggage as a result. I had to reconcile things. I had to, not that because you purposely taught them. They were taught to me sort of by default because they were interpreted to me by my mother. There are some things that he modeled that I can take away, like his work ethic. My father could have, although born and bred in Mississippi, could have very well been Jamaican. He was willing to do anything to provide. And that's an expression of love. All of these are expressions of love. Did you get enough to eat? Where are you going? When are you going to be back? Are you getting enough sleep? Can I help you? Those are all expressions of love. And a tricycle, some shit you don't deserve, for Christmas and throughout the year. And those are efforts by many people and expressions of love. So I would say,
but Fred, let me throw this out there. We know now that those are expressions of love, but we're talking about the teenage Fred. We're talking about
absolutely, and I'm saying
who don't understand that it's
right.
a grind, it's a hustle that all we really want is for somebody to show up at the basketball game,
absolutely,
somebody to show up at the baseball game. Talk about that side of it, because this is one thing that happened to me, and I want you to jump back into that. Both of my kids sat me down at the table and said, Dad, you're doing the same thing that you said that you never got. Both of my kids, when they were teenagers, they said this to me. They said, Dad, you're never here. We'll never see you. But y'all living in a $250,000 house.
Yeah. No, I understand entirely, but remember,
you go outside in the driveway, it's a luxury vehicle that you go into school in. You got all kind of clothes, you got this, you got that, you got a nice house. I mean, you got whatever toy you can think of is in your closet, and you got everything that you want. But they didn't want what I could give them. They wanted
what you felt, and that's what I was saying. You may not have heard me, but as a matter of fact, you might not have been on yet. You might not have come back. But what I said was that his example left scars, right? It left wounds, it left scabs, things that I had to reconcile, things that I had to put in perspective to glean the value from myself, either personally or over years of having those psychological battles and arguments in your head with your parents who are 100 miles away because you're reliving some damage that you think was done to you, all because they were damaged or missing something by their parent. If you got parents, you got scars. If you got parents, you got baggage. But I was fortunate enough that my mom did talk to me about what was missing. So what we're talking about is love, and how to love our wives, how to love our mates, how to love our partners, how to love our significant others. And I'll say that I had examples of both how to love and how not to love. I had examples of what could be construed as empty expressions. And I won't call them empty expressions because the person for whom was making the expression, they were very meaningful. So that's one thing we always have to look at. We just can't see love and the acceptance of love from our perspective, because my father couldn't say I love you or I'm sorry, but who's to say that him working his ass off day after day after day after day to buy my mother a new car, right? Whether she asked for one or not, that was a lot of sacrifice and meant a lot to him. So it doesn't mean that that's a meaningless expression. It's just another expression. And yes, to get back to what we were talking about is teach us men how to love. The first thing I think women have to do is understand that we bring our own set of baggage to the table, right? Number one, men historically take longer to mature. So you're lucky if you have a mature man. If you get married in your 20s, you're going to be helping raise a whole lot of brothers, right? And you're going to be dealing with a brother who has had the examples that were represented by some of our fathers, some good, some bad, some indifferent, some in between. You're going to be dealing with dudes who don't understand what it really means to be a man. And I'm not talking about to have the genitalia of a male. I'm not talking about what your friends have told you was manly and macho and masculine and all this kind of stuff. I'm talking about the kind of confidence you'll be dealing with brothers who have not learned and gained the confidence to be emotionally vulnerable, to be guys who have not gained enough self-esteem, guys who are still trying to figure it out, who cannot be transparent with you. You brothers are diamonds. You brothers are like glowing in a patch of
Hey, Fred, I want to ask you this though. As you say this, man, it's thinking because I see Ashley's name and Alicia's name, and my question for you is, man, that if you are female and you choose a dude who has more boyish tendencies than he has the activity of being a man, yeah. Then how do you say, okay, I can work with the potential, or I gotta chalk it up? Like, how does a woman make that decision, or how can that man make the decision to step his game up? Because you're giving great jewels of knowledge, and I was wondering, like, how do we support the people in the conversation? If I'm a dude watching this, how do I make the choice, Fred? How do I say, you know what, I've been messing up?
Well, I'll answer your first question about if you're a woman,
please,
and you're dealing with someone who's still immature, still maturing, and if you marry young, both of you are, that's why it's so difficult to make early, youthful marriages successful. There's so much possibility to grow in disparate ways apart. But if you're a woman, number one, just as we talked about, you have to realize we communicate in a different way. Not only do we speak differently and articulate our thoughts differently, we convey our affection and our love differently. Okay? I actually explained to my wife when really started to get close, I explained to her that I would be all over her because that's just how I express my love and affection.
Why are you keeping it PG-13, Fred?
A real nice ass. Give me a chance.
Okay, all right.
I still got the duct tape right here in front of me. I'm still motivated now. I'm just getting warmed up. Hold on, baby. Okay. So she had that booty, and I told her the way, tender, ripe and juicy. You heard? But I just wanted her to know the way I express my affection is she's going to get patted on the ass. Every time I pass her, she's going to get caressed. Every time I see her in the kitchen, I'm just going to touch her intimately, tenderly, or whatever. And it's just because I can't help it. I care about her. I love her. I'm attracted to her as much right now, this very moment, as I was when she was, 30 years younger, 40 years younger. That makes no difference. I look at her. I watch her walk across the room. I just eye her like she's prey, right? But
yeah, dog.
You know what I'm talking about, Corey.
He said like prey.
I honestly do. She looks at me. She says to me, she says, I'm in bed sleeping when I work night shift. She get up and get ready to go to work. And she says, how is it that every time I'm naked in the room, you wake up and turn around? It's like without doubt, whenever I'm naked, you wake up and turn around. And why is it and how is it that you look at me like you've never seen me before? Because I'm still just that interested, right? But I'll go on to say, you distracted me, brother, Dr. Jason, trying to get me to talk dirty to all these people. But I'm going to say this. Women, please chill out with the criticism, right? Stop telling us what we don't do, okay? It's not that we don't do these things because we're incapable. We need encouragement. We need understanding. We need you to know that we are creations just as well as you are. You know what I mean? Nobody chooses to be an asshole. Nobody chooses to be indifferent or unemotional. Many of us have grown up with unemotional fathers, unaffectionate fathers who haven't shown affection toward our mother, who haven't patted them on the ass when they walk by, whose only expression of love and concern has been, a new car or another baseball bat. You didn't come to your game, but you had what you needed. You didn't get an ass whipping. You were allowed to do whatever you want when you needed discipline. So I'll ask women right now to be more understanding and realize that we are creations just like you are. Don't criticize. Just remind us when we do something that you approve of. When we do something that's tender. If we reach and hold your hand, hang on to it. You know what I mean?
Fred.
Yes, sir.
I want to
hold on. Before you go to Fred again, because Fred is on it tonight, man. Fred is on it. Fred made a point earlier, and I want to just jump back to Corey. I want you to kind of shift and talk a little bit about this. Fred used the word sacrifice and love, and I think that many times as men, we look at the word sacrifice as love. We don't always tap into the totality of what love really is.
sacrifice.
And so, Corey, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear you talk about when you learn, if you learn, how you learn the transition from sacrificing being what love is to actually tapping into the emotion of love, and how you were able to show that now that you're married to Mrs. Hughes.
Great question. So I want to, when I hear sacrifice, one of the first things I think about is when the scripture alludes to giving God a sacrificial praise. And what that would suggest is that this praise that I'm giving God is not contingent upon how I feel.
Mm.
It's not contingent upon what I'm looking at right now. It's not contingent upon my emotions, but I'm giving him a sacrificial praise because my faith says whatever I'm facing right now is temporary. My faith says that I trust God that things will get better later. It's easy to praise when things are great, when you've got the job, when you've got the promotion, when you've got the advancement in your career. But the sacrificial praise says things are going haywire and I'm surrounded by the enemy. And common sense would suggest that I wouldn't praise God. I would complain. But a sacrificial praise says, in spite of what I see, I'm going to praise God anyway. So when I think about sacrifice, sacrificial praise, sacrificing in love, to me, what that would suggest is I'm going to love you for the long haul. I'm going to love you through every circumstance, through every situation. I think about the vows that I just took on Sunday, for richer or for poor, for better or for worse, through sickness and through health. I'm going to love you. And so it is through the lenses of that perspective that I learned sacrificial love. I guess that was a long way of me saying it was my relationship with God that helped me transition to a sacrificial lover and a person that would love you beyond my feelings and my emotions. I heard Reggie allude to in the beginning that his father wasn't there. I heard Lamar suggest that his father didn't necessarily give him what he needed. Fred said his dad did, but he left scars. But I want to share with some women on here tonight as well that it is just not men that scar men, but sometimes the men that you are dealing with have been damaged by a woman. And because they've been damaged by a woman, it makes it extremely challenging to love a woman holistically.
Wow.
When the woman that you were supposed to love, or the woman that was supposed to love you, scarred you.
Wow.
See, it wasn't my father that scarred me, but it was my mother. And so because I was scarred by my mother, not to suggest that I didn't have scars by my father, but my mom did the most damage. And I don't think she did the damage intentionally. But I think, I'm not sure if it was Eric or Fred, one of you guys talked about generational curses or things that Lamar talked about him unconsciously being the same father that his father was to him. See, my mother was adopted. So automatically she didn't have a foundation of family. The people that adopted her abused her. She had children at 16. So she didn't understand the staying power. So what I learned from my mother, Fred, was conditional love, right? As long as you're doing what I want you to do, I'm going to love you. But the moment I come home and the dishes are not washed, the moment I come home and this is not done, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to withdraw my love from you until you do what I want you to do.
Wow.
The truth is, Dr. Jason, is I found myself unconsciously treating women like that along the way. That as long as you lined up and did exactly what I wanted you to do, I was rocking with you. But when you didn't do that, I would fire you and let you keep working.
Wow.
And you had no idea that you had been terminated. So it is not just men. It is not just men that scar men, but sometimes women scar men. And as a woman, one of the ways I think that you can love your man is caring enough about him to find out where he came from.
Shit, bro.
I think, sisters, if you're paying attention, I think you should love him enough.
Again, Corey. Say that again.
You should love him enough to care about where he came from. Because understanding where he came from and how he was raised and what he was taught, understanding his family lineage and just the atmosphere that he was groomed in will help you understand some of the decisions that he makes at 35 and 40.
That's right. That's right.
And what you have to do, women, is not change him, but the areas of deficiency that he had when he was growing up, you've got to try to make up the difference gracefully.
Stop.
Gracefully.
Stop.
So, for example, my fiance said something to me, Fred, the other day. We was having a family meeting, and yes, we argue quite often. And I'm so glad that you said that, Fred and Reggie, because I think my wife now, not my fiance, but my wife now, I think, I don't want to speak for her, but the way I felt was that she felt like arguing would suggest unhealthy. And the reason that arguing was unhealthy to her is because, as Reggie alluded to, she never seen her parents argue. I think differently. I don't think that arguing is unhealthy. I think arguing gets you healthier. because you deal with the things that you normally are silent about.
Process.
So we were having a healthy, heated exchange in my family, and my fiance said something to me that I never thought about. She said, Corey, you're a great father. You always got the kids together, but you never spend individual time with your children.
Oof.
Because I've never seen that before, Eric. And because the way I was raised, watch this, Reggie, the way I was raised, me and my brothers were always split up. So for me, trying to overcompensate and make sure my children never felt the way me and my brothers felt, I always kept them together.
Right.
But what happened is I was neglecting their individuality.
Wow.
And so my wife comes along and she says, you're a great father, but how about spending some individual time? Sisters, I'm giving you a very tangible, practical example of how to help love this man and maybe help grow this man without destroying the man.
That part.
Without ridiculing the man. Because it could just simply be that he just never was exposed to it. I'm sitting in the studio right now, and I'm getting ready to do a podcast after this. And I was telling a young man in the studio that sometimes exposure is the very thing we need to survive in life and grow. I don't care how good the soil is. I don't care how great the sand, the seed is. If it's not exposed to sunshine, it'll never grow. And you just may be the sunshine that seed needs to produce in that man. You can't ridicule it. You got to try to understand it. You got to try to understand that maybe he's got daddy issues. Maybe he's got mama issues. Maybe he's got both. I just want to do it one time, Dr. Jason, before I go. One time, the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sin. And so sin is not always, I think sometimes we preach it incorrectly, Eric. Sin is not about doing wrong. But sin would simply suggest that you missed the mark.
Wow.
And so when I miss the mark, if you love me, cover me.
Whew.
Let me say that again.
He said, if you love me, cover me.
If I miss the mark,
Cover me.
if you love me, cover me.
That's good.
I remember, Jason, when I was coming up, man, I'm exposed something on social media I've never exposed before. Reggie, when I was 6 years old, I used to pee in the bed. I used to pee in the bed, and because I would stay up playing video games, doing what Fred doing now, drinking. Mine was non-alcoholic. His is alcoholic, but that's okay. But I would pee in the bed. But my big brother Pat, because my father would come home and whoop me every time I peed in the bed, my big brother Pat would wake up at 6 in the morning. And if he seen that I peed in the bed, he would get me up, change my clothes, change my sheets, and cover me before my father got home.
Wow.
He didn't expose me. He didn't ridicule me. But the Bible says that love covers a multitude of missing the mark. It is a journey. Watch this, sisters. It's a journey, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a 100-yard dash, because there is a season where you will be missing a mark, and you're going to desire for him to cover you.
That's good.
Whether it's through postpartum depression, whether it's through menopause, whether it's through the losing of a family member or parent, you'll start to miss the mark. And so what you don't want to do, the Bible says that you reap what you sow. So I want you to sow love and covering that man and attempting to understand who he is, why he is, and where he's going, and help him get there so that you can reap that same benefit when you need that same benefit yourself.
Powerful, bro. We all of us sitting back like, hey, that's powerful. Hey, that's good, bro. That's really good. Yeah. Very transparent, man, and such a vulnerable space to be in, and that's what I love about these calls, bro. I mean, we just pull on each other's energy and enter into this space of vulnerability, and it's just a beautiful thing. Very rarely, ladies, when you see this, when you see a group of men, and let me pause parenthetically and say this: a group of Black men who are willing to expose themselves to a place to help others grow, others develop, others mature. Because we ain't perfect. We just been through a lot to understand how to help you. And while we're helping you, we're helping ourselves. Corey said some stuff tonight, man, and I'm sitting over here like, my goodness, I got to go back and replay this.
Not always, though. Always, he don't look that bright, but something's going on between his ears, man. I appreciate him. He gets on damn nerves, but he's lovable.
Jay, Fred, and Corey, I want to share this too because Fred, you said something that really speaks to me. I grew up Theo Huxtable. You know what I'm saying? So my dad was my Cub Scout leader. He ran marathons. So in the wintertime, he out running 8-10 miles, black man in the middle of the city in Ohio. All my buddies, we all had a very common economic level, I think, parent-wise. But then some of my friends chose to do some things that was, a little bit more risque than what I would do. But I was loyal to them, and one of the things if we talk about this, I remember. Then it's gonna be. I'm gonna be transparent here, right? I remember being embarrassed by the fact that my father was the dopest dude I knew. I remember being embarrassed by it. Like I didn't know how to say, I am the paper boy. I've achieved because I didn't know how to do it. My dad's had all my wrestling matches. My dad's had all my football games. Like my mom wasn't allowed to come because she, smacked somebody out of the bleachers one time at a wrestling match, which was hilarious and not cool. And I never really knew how to explain that. And then my dad was the most vulnerable dude I ever met. And Corey, you said something that just resonated with me, bro. Like the person who I felt, and I hope my mama ain't watching this. So I'm gonna keep it one though. The person I felt the most challenged with was my mom. Because my dad, I thought he was the shit. Like I was like, this dude is at everything. He run marathons. He low key be kicking out dollars. Like he do stuff, and he treat my stepbrother awesome. And he treat my stepbrother awesome. I did not realize anything changed. The game didn't change for me. Honestly, until my aunt, and I'm gonna say here, my aunt Odessa said to me one time, I was 21 years old, 23, something like that. She said to me, I was like, yeah, Mom, our relationship, I wish it was better. She was like, do you know what your mom went through in life? I was like, nah, from what she say it's this and this and this. She was like, it was this, and this. And I'm not, I'm saying it that way for respect.
Right, I understand.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I loved her that much more. But I also realized why my dad chose her. He chose a strong woman who was passionate and had trauma. And he was a strong man from West Virginia who was a coal mining kind of dude, but he became the director of respiratory therapy. And only thing I ever knew in my life, like Reggie, I was, my brother's 10 years older than me. I love him dearly, but I kind of grew up as an only child. I never played any sports until I was a freshman in high school. Before that, I did judo and wrestling. Judo and gymnastics, right? So everything that nobody else did. So I'm delivering papers looking like the damn, Norman Rockwell picture with my paper bag on, but I'm doing back tucks and shit, right? The crazy thing was, because I knew you couldn't do nothing with me, I will fold you up. I had nothing but love for you. And I realized that, about relationships, honestly, the best thing I learned about relationships, watching my mom and dad and all this stuff being the middle chat, the Theo Huxtable type, was I'm strong enough to deal with some shit, but I would much rather synergize something that's different. I want to love you. I want you to love, and I want you to love me, not because of what you think my parents got. I want you, and not because of my athletic ability. I want you to love me because I'm Eric. And I want to love you. So I want to know your journey. I want to appreciate your journey, and I want you to appreciate mine. Before love for me, the biggest word for me was appreciation.
Mm.
So if I can say anything to these ladies right now that's watching this, I think one of the things that is important for most men is just to know that they are appreciated. I don't need you to need me. I want you to want me.
Mm.
I want you to be like, damn, dog. My wife went out of town with the kids this weekend, and I was thinking to myself, I was gonna take some sexy pictures of me washing clothes. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting the load in, like, or me washing the dish, like, soap on my nipple. You know what I mean? Something crazy. My wife was like, that's some bullshit. You know why? Because what's expected is that's what we do. That's what we do.
Put some electric across your head. Not that black electrical tape, just a strip.
Electrical tape.
I can see that.
Hey, I just wanted to share this. You know what I'm saying, Fred? Because you said something, and it just made me think, like I did grow up with both my parents, and it was a weird experience somewhat. But then here's the crazy thing: most of my friends did.
Mm-hmm.
Both their parents was in the mix.
But you know what? Let's admit something, man. Me and you, E. The whole hustle ball. Where's Bill Cosby now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The whole hustle experience, man. I keep saying, listen to me when I tell you. If you got parents, you got scars. You know what I mean? Because your parents got scars. Your parents got baggage. You can only be as good as you can only be what you were able to overcome. As much baggage as you were able to overcome, that's about as good as you're gonna get. And I only hope that if I was Al Frederick Robinson 2.0, that my son can be 3.0 or 3.5 or something. And generationally, we'll get better and better and better as Robinson. But like you were saying, about your dad being the bomb and everything. My father was at everything too. My parents were at everything too. It's the way I was taught to parent. But at the same time, my mom started confiding in me about what she missed during her life with my father as soon as I was 14, 15 years old. She just needed somebody to talk to. And as a result of that, I started to understand at first in my immaturity, I'll say, it was like, fight back. You need to tell him this, you need to do this, that, the other, and a bunch of immature answers, right? Because I wanted to protect my mom. I wanted her to have a better relationship.
Yeah.
What I started to realize, though, was that, just like Corey said, you need to try to understand your spouse and where they came from. What I started to understand was this. My mother was in no way, shape, form, or fashion equipped to understand my father.
Wow.
My mother grew up, she was emotionally needy. She grew up treated like the baby of a family of 1, 2, 3, 4, when she wasn't even the baby. So she always was emotionally catered to.
Hey, Fred, can I pause you just for a second? Because I think you said something so powerful, Fred, that I just want people to hear again. You said that your mom was in a relationship. Your mom was in a marriage. Your mom was married to your father. She did not necessarily have the capacity to be able to give to your father. There are a lot of women who are in relationships with men and men who are in relationships with women who do not have the capacity to give them what they need. I needed to just pause you, Fred, because that's powerful, bro. There's a lot of marriages right now that are still intact. They're intact, but they're really damaged because they don't have the capacity.
No, they're intact, brother doctor. They're intact because people have resigned themselves to suffer.
Ooh.
Yeah, and let me let me jump in and once a show I got to give some pushback. I disagree, Dr. Jason. I think you're being nice. I think you're being nice by saying they don't have the capacity. Because they have the capacity, they just selfish as hell.
Stop.
They just immature. Because to love somebody, again, going back to what I said, love covering a multitude of sin. Some people are so self-absorbed and self-righteous and self-involved that they don't understand that when you get married, it ceases to be just about you and the way you were raised and the way you think. But now it's also equally about my spouse. And so you have the capacity, you have the ability. You just haven't made the decision to put your spouse first.
Look at you using big words like capacity.
But wait a minute, Corey, I got to ask you this though. So how do you, if we're going to help the ladies, because there's a lot of ladies on this.
Lots of ladies.
If you're going to help a lady out with this, how do they understand that part? Like, how do they understand, like, damn, I missed what you just, damn it, it was just right there. How do they understand the difference between raising a boy and helping their man be better? Like, how do they do that when they know that they got their own, like, they got their shit? Like, if this is a person who know I got my stuff and this is my stuff, I don't like my body or whatever that might be, you know, I'm feeling some kind of way. How do I help that man when I'm still dealing with my own trauma?
Hey man, let me tell you, Eric. Let me give you an example. This may not be the best.
And somebody might not think fat being trauma. They might not think that.
This may not be the best example, Reggie, but I'm just gonna give an example. Over the last month, I was planning a wedding. I was going through a custody battle. I was going through a lawsuit. I was trying to run my trucking business, preparing for my tax business. My 10-year-old niece tried to commit suicide. CPS tried to take my other nieces. All of this while I was doing the shows with you guys, not really expressing the trauma behind the scenes. Simultaneously, one of my children was suffering with depression. Although I was experiencing all of this trauma, I still found the time to service my daughter and to give her what she needed and to be there for her and to put her in counseling and to have conversations with her in spite of me dealing with this, and this, because I've got the capacity, because I made a decision that because I love you, no matter what I'm dealing with, I'm going to figure out a way to help lift the load.
Wow, that's good.
Or lift the burden off of you. I said I was going to do it one time, but here's a second time. The Bible says that a sanctified wife helps to sanctify the husband and vice versa.
I'm not going to let you get too far from that statement because it's my turn to get in your ass. All right. You were talking about all of the things the circumstances that you lived beyond. And I get that. I understand that. And I believe it because you've been on every one of these shows and nobody would have known it except for you expressing it right now. Right. And this is what the peace that passes understanding does for you. Don't forget, and to remind our viewers, you've got a peace that's uncommon to most people, right? Because your foundation is not within yourself. You have the benefit of God's Spirit that's helping you to reprioritize your life, right, and deal with things in a way that a lot of people can't say. That's it's right. Easy for us to say. We talk about pride on this show every week. We end up at the foot of the cross and talking about relinquishing or ridding ourselves of our pride. But I understand what you're talking about, and I believe every word that you say, because I am fortunate enough to be able to live beyond circumstances in my life. And I know you didn't say it, but I know you take no credit for it. You have a foundation of rest and peace and self-assurance that's uncommon to most humans. That's a different show, you know, to help people to find that rest and find that peace, that in the midst of trials, in the midst of tribulations, you live beyond and set an example of peace and understanding. That's where your rest lies. You cannot deny that you have a supernatural force that's aiding you because you have a lot to deal with. I mean, I didn't know the full extent of what you're dealing with. You talked about getting the trucking company, and I know what you dealt with your wedding and all that kind of stuff, and that's enough as it is. But what you just shared with us is overwhelming for anybody.
And listen, and beyond that, don't forget I dealt with COVID. I had COVID-19. So I only share that to express this. Yes, Fred, my foundation is my faith. What keeps my mind when I have every reason to lose it is God keeping his hand on me, goodness and mercy following me all the days of my life. But the reason I even brought all of that up was to help people to understand that are watching, no matter what you are dealing with, overweight, your own baggage, your own stuff, when you stood before God and declared a covenant with that person, you don't get to categorize your issues as more important than their issues. You don't get to suggest to say, what I got to deal with is more important than what you got to deal with. No, we are in this together. How can two walk together unless they are agreed? And so we have to be in agreement. I made a commitment to my wife that I'm going to help you unpack your baggage. And watch this, Reg. I'm going to allow you to help me unpack mine.
Allow.
I feel because sometimes I think Paula White said this: God can't heal that which you won't reveal. And so oftentimes that's why the Bible says, Jason, talking about in Genesis, that Adam and Eve were naked and not ashamed. But the moment they ate of the apple and they got the revelation and knowledge of good and evil, they wanted to cover themselves because they were ashamed. But you want to be in a relationship with somebody that you can be naked and not ashamed, and I can see your weaknesses.
Corey, are you telling me? I'm just making sure I got this right. Are you telling me that my vulnerability is my strength? Of that's a correlation with the nudity with Adam and Eve.
Absolutely.
My willingness to be vulnerable with my partner, to let them know this is who I am. I am willing to let you know who I am. I want to know who you are. I don't need to, but it would help facilitate something different.
Absolutely. And what you pray for is the safety. When you expose that vulnerability and that nakedness, that it stays within the confines of your covenant.
Wait, Corey, I gotta ask this, Jay. You mind me asking? So you're telling me that if I pray to God, I'm talking to the being, right, within me. So it's about my self-talk. So my cognitive self-talk that I am doing has to be something that is logical and promotes something bigger than me, what I'm dealing with in the activity of life. But I'm talking about my being, the logic.
Without a doubt.
That shit makes sense.
But let's not.
That's heavy too, man. We didn't get into it in this show, but I think the word safety is so important, bro. Because I tell you, man, a lot of brothers just do not feel safe opening up and safe being vulnerable, which is why we continue to go back to the barbershop and having these open, transparent, vulnerable conversations, because there is safety there, right? How do we develop safety in our relationships with our partners without the thought that she's gonna tell her mama or her girlfriends or put it on social media if we get into a fight?
Let me go back. I was Jason asking if nobody was listening to me as usual.
No, Frank,
this is some smart shit. All right, listen up. All right, look. Going back to the whole Adam and Eve analogy. All right, we talked about the vulnerability of Adam and Eve, right? This is a great analogy to how you start a relationship, right? We cannot gloss over the fact that you cannot ignore red flags. If we want to keep it real, we're talking about finding somebody who's going to help you navigate the complexities of a relationship, all right? Yes. An interpersonal relationship means understanding the person that you're in a relationship with, and you can't really understand somebody until you start to understand yourself and relinquish some of your own baggage and realize that it's clouding the lenses of your perspective. Adam and Eve were naked before each other. They were vulnerable before each other, but they didn't know it because they were first naked before God. They had a fundamental and foundational humility, right? They were a creation of God. They were naked before Him first, surrendered to Him first, and just happened to be naked, right? Their nakedness didn't matter because of their relationship to God. None of their vulnerability mattered because of their relationship to God. It was only after they damaged that relationship that their vulnerability mattered. So I keep saying, don't ignore red flags. Don't be unequally yoked. Find somebody who's willing to pull on the same end of the rope with you, right? Who has the same deep-rooted, fundamental, foundational values that you have. Somebody who, when you argue, is not screaming and talking about your mama. Rather, simply trying to make a point to make your relationship better because they think that their idea is right for you as a couple, right?
So,
And I use as few big words as I could.
Yo, Fred, listen, man, I just appreciate your articulation and your ability to say words like capacity.
That was 5 syllables, bro.
No, listen, man, I just want you to know I am thoroughly impressed. And I'm going to help you write a book called The Book of Red Flags. Every show, you talk about them damn red flags. I'm just trying to help people not end up like y'all did when y'all was bachelors. Right. But I wanted to go back and share something because I want to clarify. That's 4 syllables. I wanted to clarify the allow someone to help unpack your bags. Because Reggie, I just came back from Mexico. And me and my wife went to Mexico for a week, and I didn't wash my clothes in Mexico. So for you to unpack my bags means that you're gonna see some of my dirty drawers, some of my dirty socks. You may see a shirt that I may have wore twice because. So you get to see the stuff that is not impressive. And oftentimes in relationships, what we desire to display is the impressive things. Y'all know the saying is, man, hey, I'm a grower, not a shower. So if you catch me out the shower, you may not be impressed. But wait till I prime up. That's a whole, and I just want you to see when I'm primed up, but
The African Super Bowl.
I'm a bore, son.
Hey, Corey, man, I'm surprised you didn't get your clothes clean in Mexico, bro. I mean, I go to Cabo every year, and I never come home with dirty clothes, bro.
Man, listen, Jason, that was just an example, okay? I had a chef, a butler.
Hey, man.
Okay, don't get it twisted.
Drawers. That must be pretty bad.
But my drawers was clean, okay?
Okay.
It was just an example, okay? An example. I see the way Reggie was looking at me like, nigga, you ain't get your drawers washed? It was an example, guys, okay?
Yes, sir. You say so.
That's a good example. Hey, look, man, we're about 6 minutes from being done. I just want to share just a couple of things before we wrap up. All of you who have tuned into this 5-part series, this has been absolutely phenomenal. Tonight's session was about how to love you. And so you need to go back and replay this if you didn't get a chance to hear it in its entirety. Eric did a phenomenal job in opening us up with a great icebreaker, to do a really introspection on self. And then Reggie and Fred and Corey and Lamar, we all talked about how what our introductions to love was and is, and how we're functioning in that. And so here come next week, we're going to be done with this series, but we have a very, very, very amazing, probably 6, 7, 8, 9. I haven't figured it out yet. Part series is going to be, but it's men raising daughters. We're going to start that next week. Part one is called the delivery room, and so this is for every woman and every man who is soon to have a child, desires a child, have children, and you're thinking about what a man's role and involvement should be in raising children. Men get a bad rap, especially black men get a bad rap, and the media has a lot to play into that. And so we're going to have 6 of us like we normally do, and we're going to have some special guests come on each week and talk about them raising their daughters, them raising their children, and what those challenges have been, what their involvement has been, what they learned from what their father or their mother did or didn't do. We're going to talk through all of that for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Y'all don't want to miss this. I have not seen a series quite like this. And I thank God, as Corey mentioned, the Bible says, I don't know the verse that goes along with it, but train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he gets older, they should never depart, something like that. It's in there somewhere. But I recommend that all of you bring somebody, bring 2 people, bring 10 people. We're going to go in for the next 6 to 8 weeks about raising children, men raising children. It's going to be phenomenal. You don't want to miss it. Go ahead, Corey.
Y'all gonna get an interest. I hate kids. Y'all gonna get an interesting perspective from me.
Did you say you eat kids?
He said he eats kids.
Hey man, let me tell you something.
The worst decisions my wife ever made. Huh?
You have 2 kids, bro.
I know they're home right now, ruining a perfectly good empty nest.
Hey,
You understand, man? I'm the only one that was married for 32 years, man.
Bro, no. I got a very beautiful, smart 16-year-old, bro, who loves Michael B. Jordan. Bruh, I became a therapist when she was born. Like I got the skill set when she was born. She is an experiment. Real shit.
Yeah, I got a daughter and a son.
so look, that's next week. Y'all don't want to miss it. Tune in 7:30 East Coast time. Again, hey Corey, man, congratulations. You know, you and Mrs. Hughes, that's an amazing thing. You tied the knot, bro. We've been part of this journey when y'all was just dating. Y'all was just hanging out. Y'all was just kind of like boyfriend, girlfriend, then fiance. And so it's great to see this kind of full cycle, man, come together. And the pictures are beautiful, bro. I was online today and was able to see them. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed Mexico.
Man, I tell you what, man, it's been a beautiful journey, man. And it felt good to bust her back in, man, and not have to repent.
Right.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Hey, bro.
Hey, Jason, you said you
You know what? Wait a minute. I want her opinion on that. You talking all this shit. I'm sorry. She probably like, yeah.
I'm just kidding, man. Hey, listen, man. I'm just joking, man. I'm ignorant. Don't pay me no mind, man. Hey, but listen, can I say one thing to Dr. Murphy before we go, Jason? I know we got to wrap it up.
Go ahead.
But listen, man, you said something that has really been stimulating to me. I'm trying to do words with big syllables. But you know what's interesting, man? You, Reggie, and Dr. Duct Tape were raised by parents. Mom and dad was at home. The funny thing is, those of us that were raised in single parent homes, a lot of times we create this unrealistic illusion that we wish we had what you all had, as if it would create a problemless lifestyle.
Right.
And to hear somebody that had both mom and dad say that, you know, hey, it wasn't peaches and cream growing up either. And I got some deficiencies that are existing in my current relationship because of what I saw growing up. And me saying, because my parents were split, I got deficiencies. It would suggest what the scripture says, that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of the Lord. And so, man, I really appreciate y'all sharing that, because it's somebody watching that's like me, that remembered watching my friends. You said you was a Cub Scout, right? Yeah. I kept myself from laughing, but congratulations, you wore the little bow tie and stuff. Anyway, but and your dad was a Cub Scout, but that was great. That's awesome, man. Where I came from.
But you know, hey, just for a second.
Hold on, no. We about to close in 60 seconds.
Okay, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, finish up.
No, what I was gonna say, that's great, but I envy people like you all that had their dads in their lives, and it is just refreshing to know that no matter how you grow up, the key to success is not giving up.
That's right.
No matter how you grew up, the key to success is not giving up. Don't give up on your spouse. Don't give up on the future. Don't give up on change. Don't give up on believing that everything that God said he's going to do in your relationship, he said he's going to complete that. Yes. But you need God, and you need a non-quitting mentality.
Yes, bro. Preach on it.
Yeah. And I don't know why Fred's wife didn't give up on him, but that's another story.
Because I'm a bad man, jamma. And I got the tape. Hey, get your
Hey,
Mo
Fred, send me some.
Mo better mix it. Mo better.
Hey, Fred, send me some duct tape for my wedding gift, man, please.
Oh,
$0.
Love y'all, man. Hey, Reggie's 9 o'clock. Corey, I know y'all got another call. Eric, man, we'll do it again next week. Fred, hop on 7:30 next week. We do it again. Great seeing y'all.
All right, guys.
Hey, Eric, do you still got your old Cub Scout? You should wear that on the next show.
I'm 200. I'm 270 pounds, bro. No.
All right, brothers.
Bye, y'all.
Next week.
Hey, Fi.